What's up everybody, John here. Hey, let's make our Logic stock drums sound better. This will work on any drums you use, by the way. So first thing we're gonna do, we go to the plus sign, we go to software instrument, we're gonna go down here to the drum kit designer, we're gonna choose multi-outputs. For reasons I will explain in just 1 second, we hit create. Hell yeah, it's the marvels of modern recording. We don't have a mixer here, so I can't process these channels individually, but we got a little plus sign here. So if I click on this guy, hey, we got a kick, snare, toms, and hi-hat. It's very nice of Logic. They already thought about that. It's like in Superior Drummer, you will have like a built-in mixer in the program, but here we just do it like so. Obviously, we need a drum pattern, but much like the olden days cooking shows, I already prepared one. So you don't have to sit me and watch, put all these little dots in there. It sounds like this. Insanely cool, right? If we look at the mixer. Makes sense. What it doesn't tell you is that the first one is actually the overhead. Let's just call that overhead. Interesting thing about this kit though is there's nothing in the overheads except the cymbals. So there's no room, and I have no room mic. I can't control the room. And the room is very much where you get your kind of like space and a lot of the life of the drums hang out in the room. But worry not, we will fake a room, and that's the next thing we're gonna do. So here's how you fake a room mic on a digital kit. We're gonna go to bus. I'm gonna use bus 3 for this. If I option click, they will automatically be at 0 dB. I'm gonna call this room, not like the room. You tear me apart, Lisa. Anyways, I'll go to the sends here. I'm gonna pick a reverb, and we're gonna use the space designer. Again, I'm gonna use as much stock stuff as I can. If we listen to this, woo-hoo, that's like an arena. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna turn down the length to maybe like 700-ish. Seems like a lot, right? Excuse me, but what I can do, I can just mix this in now to where I think it sounds good. Adds quite a bit of life to it, right? And now it just sounds way bigger. Season to taste, as they say. What I don't like, feels like it's too much reverb on a kick drum. Like in metal and stuff, you typically have no reverb on a kick drum. But if there's too much reverb on a kick, it just gets kind of wishy-washy and you get weird like slapbacks. Then just pull it back there a little bit. Yeah, I like that much better. Step number 2, I'm gonna take care of my routing. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna route all this to a drum bus. For me, I always use bus 1. I'm gonna call this. No surprise there, I call this a drum bus. Next thing I do, I'm gonna right click, create track, and this is just for me to be able to see things better, and especially as projects get really big. You know, visual oversight is it's a good thing. So now all my drums are being sent into my drum bus. Yay. Next thing I'm going to do after this is I'm going to route my shells, that's drums with shells around them, so kick, snare, toms, into a parallel drum compressor. So this is parallel compression for drums. I always use bus 2, but that's just me. You can use whatever you want. I'm going to call this drum P-comp. And I do the same thing. I'm going to right click, create track, and I like to have them next to each other. It also puts them in front of all my drum channels on the mixer. Works for me. We're going to use the compressor. I'm just going to use the stock compressor for this. And here's what we want to do. We want to squash the living Jesus out of these drums. So same thing, option click. Now we're sending a whole bunch into the drum P comp. And here I'm going to go way heavy. And I'm going to go way heavy. And then what I find gives me the results that I want. Again, it's just taste. You can do this however you want. I want to open up the attack so I get the transients through, but then squash the living hell out of the rest of the sound. So around 30-ish milliseconds. I feel around there. Use your ear, folks. Easy to say when you know what to listen for it. I'm looking for a really squashed and almost like pumping sound. Yeah, the distortion there isn't bad. I'm going to keep to that one for now. And here's the trick. I'm going to also route the drum P comp into the drum bus. Let's see what it sounds like. So I'm just going to like slowly mix this in. Yeah, a little loud. I'm going to pull this down a little bit. Without. Yeah, gets quite a bit more oomph. I like oomph in my drums. Next thing we're gonna do is the SSL channel compressor trick. So on all channels except the hi-hat, I'm gonna use the SSL compressor that comes with the SSL channel, and I'm gonna use the waves SSL channel. This makes sense when I do it. So here's the Waves SSL compressor trick. Here's what you want to do. Actually, let's start this on the kick drum. Actually, it starts on the snare drum. It's going to be much more noticeable. I'm going to hit split and I'm going to hit channel out. So this just means these filters, the high pass, low pass, will happen before the compressor. And like this is just like the order in which filter, EQ, and compressor happen in the channel. And this is the way I like to use it. So let's check out that snare drum. What I'm gonna do, and here's the trick. You're gonna put threshold all the way up, leave release, and then I'm gonna slowly turn the ratio up until I get like 6 dB. Or if you're a visual person, about 2 lights. Quite a bit more snap to that, right? And then I'm gonna high pass out some low stuff that I feel like I don't need. With that, yeah, not too bad, huh? Let's do the same thing for the kick drum. SSL channel. Split, channel out, threshold all the way up. Where'd you go? And now that the kick drum is a little more compressed, you start hearing that room mic sink through a little bit more, or spill through a little bit more. So you might have to adjust that. But that's just what mixing is. Right? It's a broad strokes and then a million adjustments until you're happy. If you're ever happy. Cool, cool, cool. Let's do the toms as well. Toms also need love. Don't forget. That's the best fill ever. Split, channel out, threshold all the way up. A little too much. Yeah. And I'm gonna leave the height because just think it sounds weird. I am gonna put some on that first cymbal though. SSL channel. Now you can't just like copy paste them over, but then I will get whatever settings I already have, and I feel like if I don't hear it pure from the beginning, my ear is tainted and it makes it weird to adjust later. Threshold, split, channel out. Yeah, a little too much. Yep, like that. And since it's overhead, I'm just gonna high pass the living Jesus out of it. If you don't know, high pass and low cut is the same thing. If you need me, or if you want me to do a video on that, I will. Alright, so let's see what the drum sounds like with just the SSL compression added. I haven't EQ'd anything. Well, it's Clip Cities. I need to turn this down a bit. Let's turn all the drums down a bit. How about that? And yeah, clipping channel 32-bit float, all that jazz. We don't really have to worry about it. Makes quite a bit of difference. I'll just toggle it off and on a little bit for you. Obviously, it gets louder, and that will skew our perception. I feel it adds quite a bit of presence and punch too. And I like all those things. What happens if we add it to the room mic? So I'm actually gonna add it before the reverb. And here I'm definitely gonna take a lot of the, actually let me show you why. On the room, if we just put an EQ in there, you see all this low end gunk? This is my room mic, by the way. We can't really hear it, but we will perceive it as just being muddy and hard to, like the mix gets really muddy and kind of boomy and bass heavy. You lose a lot of clarity, and he eats up a lot of headroom, so you can't be as loud. So I'm just gonna high pass. Actually, I'm gonna do this in the SSL, but that is essentially what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna do this. Just take out a bunch of that low end that I don't need. So go away channel EQ. I'm just gonna do it from here instead. So this is the same thing, right? You see that little high passy thing. So always use your ears. Cool beans. Let's see what it sounds like. Not too bad. Let's start EQing this just a teeny weeny bit. I feel the bass, the kick drum, sorry, in Sweden we call that a bass drum. What do you do in America too? It could use a little bit of top end clicky and a little bit of bass oomph. So what I like to do, I will add way too much, find the frequency that I like, and then just roll back to it feels good. Mind you though, this will affect whatever compressors and stuff you have going after it, so be mindful of that. You might have to pull back a little bit. Also, click and a kick happens a lot around 7 and 8K, 3 to 5K. So I'm just gonna put two little thingamadings right around there. Maybe not that much. And mind you, there's no right or wrong here. It all boils down to taste. If you think the click sounds way better at 7 than 8, then that is right for you. Like there's no hard rules here at all. It all comes down to taste. The reason the top mixers keep mixing everything is because they're really good at it, and their taste aligns with your taste. What they think sounds good, you think sound good also. So that and just learning the craft really, really well. Alright, that's cool with me. Feels like there's a little low-end flub here. that took care of that. All right, diddly done. All right, it starts to sound like a drum kit. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add a designated snare reverb. Here's how I do it. Let's use bus 4. Let's call you. Let's call you snare reverb. I'm going to again use the space designer. How long you want your snare reverb to be depends on the tempo of the song. I typically don't want my snare reverb tail to last all the way to the next snare hit because it just turns into washy magoo, and I don't like that. So use your ears for this tempo, maybe 700. So a little pre-delay. So pre-delay is just how long it takes before the reverb starts to happen. Because if you think of it, like when you get reflections from a room, it takes a while for that reflection to reach whatever wall and then come back to your ears. So it makes sense to have a little bit of pre-delay. Just gonna high pass it because again it adds a lot of gunk that I don't really need. Alright, so here's the real trick. With your snare reverb, I'm gonna route it into my parallel compression. So now snare reverb goes into my drum compressor, my parallel compressor. That in turn goes into my drum bus. Make sense? So snare, I'm sending bus 4. This is bus 4. I get a bunch of processing here, a nice little reverb. I send this into my parallel compressor, and then I send that into my drum bus. All roads lead to the drum bus. That almost sounded gated. Let's try a different reverb. Room. Let's do big drums. And yeah, that's better, I think. And then obviously season to taste. So this sounds like too much drum reverb for me, so I'm just going to pull back a little bit. I'm also going to add a little bit to the toms, because toms need love too. Alright, not too shabby. What's next? Let's add a compressor. Let's glue these drums together a little bit more. So I'm going to go back to compressor, and I'm going to choose the Studio FET, which is the SSL classic master bus compressor. I'm going to put this at about 4-ish, maybe, we'll see. And the trick here is to do a really long attack and a really fast release, and then I just want to... You see this on master buses a lot, but I find it works typically well on drums as well. We just want to tickle the meter here a little bit. Well, that's a lot. Now this is where I find their distortion adds quite a bit of nice saturation. And by doing all these things, it affects everything else, right? So now I feel like there's too much reverb on the snare, so now I have to go back. So again, my mixing strategy is very much like broad strokes and then a million little adjustments until I'm happy, if that ever happens. Let's see what it sounds like when I turn everything off. And I haven't EQ'd almost anything at this point, right? I just like add a little compression with SSL, a little bit of routing with the parallel compression, you know, set up my reverbs, fake a room, stuff like that. But I feel this is a much better starting point if I was mixing this with, you know, drums and bass and guitars and all that stuff. So yeah, a little bit of clever routing, a little bit of compression here and there, and I think you're off to a pretty good starting point. Let me know if this was helpful, and I will see you in the next video. Okay.